Every Sunday morning, the sun shines bright. Grab your favorite mug, let's take flight. With the Coffee Time podcast, we gather around, talking about Colombia, where love is found. Expats share their stories, dreams unfold. In this coffee triangle, adventures bold. Oh, coffee time, bring us together. With laughter and love, we'll face any weather. From the mountains high to the valleys wide, in this coffee hug, we find our pride. From Medellin to Cali, Cartagena shores, exploring this country, we open new doors. Tips and tales shared, we laugh and we learn.
Welcome back to the channel, Grand Colombia, and welcome to another Coffee Time Live here in Armenia, Colombia. And it's coffee again today. It's getting to be a habit. What happened? My microphone's drooping. Here we go. Can you hear me okay? How's the volume? Does it need to go up? Does it need to go down? I bumped it, and I'm not sure if I put it back right. So let me know. And a lot of people were waiting today. It was surprised. I mean, there's always a handful of people, but there was like almost 24 people waiting today, which was very surprising. And I'm streaming, of course, live on Rumble, which is where you're watching me. I'm streaming live on Locals. Somebody's there watching. I'm streaming live on X and also streaming live on a site called Kick. Don't know why. We'll see how it goes. I am not streaming live on YouTube anymore. They can go suck it. Okay. Temperature 77 degrees. It's a little. It's probably a little warmer than that. At least on my balcony, it was kind of toasty. And we're going to have a high of 80. I'll bet it's a couple degrees more than that. And we're going to have a low of 64. That's probably spot on. And the Colombian peso which is our topic today, as of about 10 minutes ago, is at 40.11 to the dollar. And someone did ask me, I was like, why are you always off? Well, I'm not always off. It's correct when I check it. It's always changing. Plus, it depends on the site that you're looking. I use xe.com. And the reason I use that is that's the one that seems to match what the banks do. So if I go pull something out of the bank from USA, from the ATM, and I check it on my phone with XE, the exchange rate is pretty much the same. Some other sites, well, for example, this was 40.11, and I looked at another site, and it was 40.17. There tends to be a lot of variation. I don't know why, but XC seems to be the one that's the most accurate. So I don't know if it's accurate or not, but it's at least it's accurate with what the banks follow here. So that's why. An off-the-wall question I got. Okay, let's see. We've got love the new intro music from Isabella. Thank you very much. That was all AI. Juka, greetings from Finland. I've got a couple things to talk about with you in just a minute. Turtle, good morning. How you doing? It's fine. The volume, awesome. Mr. Beanick, supporter of the channel, and you can see the little icon there. You're a subscriber. Thank you very much. I'm going to talk about some of these Rumble metrics in a moment. And Yuka volume is fine. Perfect. Let's talk about it right now. Where's my, let's see. Let's get over here in my Rumble stats. Okay, what do you have to do to be a creator? Well, there's some hoops you have to jump through, as you know, to get the status. But once you do, every month, you've got certain things you've got to meet. So I put it up here on the screen. This is for August. Hours streamed from Rumble Studio this month. If you take a look, I've streamed a little more than twice of what's required, so not that difficult. That's why it's in green. I've got one more coffee time after today. So today's obviously isn't in it, and next week's isn't in it. We'll finish out great. Hours watched this month, 183. It's required 200. I'll be over the 200 after next week's coffee time. No problem. They're very particular with the hours watched. If you watch it and then you go back and click it again, it reads your address and it only counts for one time through it. It's the same with chats and things like that. It's YouTube never monitored those things. Here they watch those things carefully. Total unique chatters, those are when you send off messages. It says 19. I'm confused on this. It may be, well, I don't know. I'll find out, but it's asking for one more. And I don't think it's because we get a ton of chats every week. And of course, it would be looking for unique chats, but even at that, there would be more. So there's something particular about it. I'm not quite sure. Maybe if it's people are subscribing or if there's a donation or they're doing something through it, I don't really know. But I'm close to it, whatever it is, so I should be good. Rumble Premium exclusive hours stream. That's where it's behind a paywall. I put up 6 hours. What I did, maybe it's cheating, I took that 1 hour dating video from a couple years ago because people ask me about it a lot. And I just don't make it public. Well, what I did was I streamed it for 6 hours, 6 times back to back on the premium. So it's still behind a paywall. Well, the other wasn't a paywall. I just didn't show it. But now it's there behind a paywall, but only subscribers have access to it. Rumble, and it fulfilled my need. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next month. Next month, probably something similar with a different kind of video. I don't know. Rumble Studio host read campaigns. That's when I read those ads. I've done 3 this month. I've got 2 more to go. If I read one today and I read one next week, then we meet that criteria. So for those that have asked me, what the heck do you have to do with Rumble? Heck of a lot more than with YouTube. On the other hand, it's very reasonable. And the other thing is, I got my first, back when I was monetized with YouTube, I got my first income somewhere close to a year of being there because you have your initial hoops to jump through. And when I got my first one, it was probably $30, something like that. I've already qualified for next month's payout, and it's not a ton, but it's $51. So becoming this creator thing, I did that last month. This month I've qualified for $51 that I get paid out next month. We'll see what happens next month, but it's also a zillion times better than what YouTube was when I was monetized. Of course, for the last 4 years or so, but they haven't monetized me on YouTube. But here, I'm way ahead of the game. So it's awesome. Where will I be in a year from now? I imagine it'll actually turn into I'm convinced that it will pay for the channel, and within a few months that stress will be off me, and that's awesome. And that's what the coffee was for too. I shouldn't complain. I made some sales. Okay. On the Rumble, what else do I have here? Yuka. First of all, last week Yuka gave a pretty good contribution. And that happens from time to time with people. And Yuka is consistent about every week doing a contribution. Then what he did was he packed it up into doing it once a month, but the same amount that he was donating. And I have other people that do that. And and generally they don't want to be noticed, but Duke is not the only one. However, sometimes there are special events. Last week, he made a hefty donation, and I woke up this morning to that. Yet another one, you see, 24 August. That was today. Kind of blew me away. And so I was pondering what makes him so happy and friendly and generous. Well, the top happiest countries in 2024 came out recently, and number one is Finland, the home country of Juka. So that explains a lot. And the U.S. is on that list of number 23. It's kind of way down there. Okay, Renee, hello from Belgium. How are you doing? Miss NATO. All right, let's see. What else do I got? Oh, I did my doctor's visit. We'll get to the real stuff here in a minute, but I keep you up to date with what's going on here in my life. Went to the doctor's visit, and I got that thing put on, which you guys determined was called Holter, which is what it's called here. She pulled it out of a drawer that was labeled Holter. And it didn't amount to anything. All it was a blood pressure cuff that she put on my forearm. And the nurse the next day was very upset about that. She put it on my forearm, and it was just a little contraption, which it's like I've got a home unit. Oh, this one looked like much more expensive, but it was small. I took a quick snapshot. There we go. Of course, wearing my Grand Colombia t-shirt. It's always Grand Colombia that I wear out and around, or it's the Colombian flag one. But that was it. So it was 24 hours. I did have a mishap. Why am I talking about this? Because there's a lot of people here that are retirement age that are concerned about heart attacks and kind of absorb any information I put out. So that's why normally I wouldn't even want to talk about this, but that's why. I woke up at 3:00 in the morning, which usually I get up at 4, so it wasn't that far off. But I woke up at 3, and the thing was running on my forearm, which is actually, I don't know, you can't see in the camera, but it's bruised. And it was running and running and running. It felt like it was squeezing so hard my fingers are going to pop off. It wouldn't stop. So I took it off. They tape it, but I took it off. It's like, this thing hurts and it's not stopping. And so I squeezed all the air out of it, and I went inside and looked at it, and it said error. Well, obviously. So I pushed the button to reset it. The buttons are pretty clearly symbolized. And I put it back on my arm, and then went back at 7:00 that morning. So it was only a few more hours. And I told them about it. And the nurse, like I say, she was kind of upset. Did I put it on my lower arm? I said, no, she did that yesterday. And she says, well, it won't be accurate. I don't know. You guys put it on. She did it. She thought that I had relocated it. Maybe it wasn't comfortable or something. No, it's nothing like that. And morning from the awesome town of Agua Chica. So I don't know what happened to the thing, but it went haywire. And earlier, around 1:30, it ran for a long time, and it woke me up, and it hurt. But shortly after, it deflated. I said, okay. So I don't know if I was laying weird and hitting one of the buttons. I laid on my side, like they said, on the side away from the cuff, like they said. But when you're sleeping, I mean, who knows? I don't tend to toss and turn very much, so I don't really know. But she said, well, the stats are all too high because of where it was located, but they could take that into account as long as everything was consistent. then they know how much to move it down. And they say, okay, well, that's your thing. I've been tracking it every day since I've had a heart attack. Like I say, I had this little home unit. I track it every day, and I put it into the Samsung Health thing, and so all my medications in there. It's really handy because, like yesterday, the nurse had a question on the medication. I just pulled it out and showed it to her. It shows the pill itself, and it gives the name of the medication and the amount, and so she could look at. There were 7 that concerned her, and so she was able to take it right off the phone. It was, I mean, that alone was worth, because before I was doing this, it was a pain. And also the blood pressure thing, I've been keeping, like I say, since I had the heart attack. So June. And you can print off a report in a PDF or a spreadsheet. And yesterday, when she was talking about being on my forearm, I showed her the PDF up until the day before when they hooked me up, that I'd been doing it here. I showed her, and she looked at all the numbers and stuff, and so she calmed down. All right, enough of that crap. I go back tomorrow, I think around 11 a.m., and they do a 3D cardiogram thing, like a CT scan, and talk to me. So I don't know. This is a beginning. This place is the, I forget what they call it, but it's basically recuperation. After you've had a heart attack, they monitor everything. They track it for the insurance company. They bill the insurance company. And I'm going through the assessment period with them so they can determine what I should do going forward. And they have people on staff, and you go in there and you do the treadmill thing and whatever. I'll let you know as we go, unless you tell me, no, it's too boring, we don't want to hear it. I just get a lot of questions about it. Since I've had the heart attack, I've had a lot of questions. Okay. I've got this morning, it's only a minute. I got a couple video clips from Robert. He's in Medellin. He's retired now, and he's sort of living in Medellin, although he's been constantly traveling. And let me show you that little clip, especially those watching in Medellin. You might have been curious about what was going on. Here you go.
Wow, this is La 70th Street today. I don't know what the hell's going on. Siempre la vida. All right, I just found out that this is a huge march of older people, like retirees and stuff, and they're just doing it for the fun of it. I was just told that it's not a protest. They're just doing it to come out. There's thousands of older people here, and they're just doing it to show spirit, I guess. It's crazy.
I don't know, for you, that was really loud for me. Kind of curious what you think about that. And the last thing before I get to, I've only got 4 news articles today, and it won't be very long, and then we'll go into the exchange rate. I know everybody's interested in it. I've been researching it since 2018, and especially during COVID, I put a lot of time and effort into trying to figure out how people come up with their predictions for the exchange rate. And at this point, I've become very comfortable with my view of it. And for this, I put in another couple hours to see what's out there, who's predicting what. And all this is Turtle's fault because he sent me an article that I read and I disagreed with the conclusion. It's like, well, who are you to disagree with the experts? Well, if you think about it, they're most always wrong. So, I can be wrong too. So that's why we're doing this thing today. But first, something else that I'm asked a lot about, what about property? So here's an example. This is a 6-acre farm, and the asking price is $65,000. Well, it's in pesos, 260 million, but it's $65,000 for this farm. That's the Facebook ad. Here's the map. Circled is Armenia. Then you got Manizales, and then this little town. And there's a little town right next to where this farm is. So you look at the map, and they're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but you've got a town that's just a couple minutes away. Like I say, it's 6 acres, so it's not huge, but it's big enough to have fruit trees. There's coffee plants there, enough for yourself and some friends. There's a picture of some of the. It's a pretty tall tree, so that people aren't monitoring it too close because it should be trimmed down. But it's there, and it takes 2 or 3 years to establish a coffee plant. So you got something to work with. On the other hand, they don't last forever either. You have to replant every so often. Okay, so there's that. So let's get on with the news. Did I cover everything? I got the Rumble. I got Yuka. It is a live chat, so if you got something to say, feel free. I'll do the news and I'll do the ad read, and then we'll get in with the topic. So probably 10 minutes. All +4 visit Quindio Colombia. Expert travel guide. Main celebration. I don't know what you're talking about. Good morning from Vancouver. How are you doing? All right. Quindio in mourning. Montenegro patrolman is among 13 police officers killed in a Malfi attack. We're coming up on election season, and there tend to be a handful or slightly increasing terrorist, FARC attack, whatever you want to call them. It's the narco criminals. And here's a map of where it's located. You'll see I underlined Pereira is down towards the bottom. Then you got Manizales. Then quite a ways up, you got Medellin about halfway up. And then between Medellin and Monteria is Amalfi. And what happened was a drone filled with explosives was steered into a helicopter, and the helicopter crashed, killing 13 police officers. As you can imagine, big news, pretty tragic. I think there was something that happened outside of Cali also. But I don't like to give that kind of news. On the other hand, I'm not here to hide that kind of news. I want to be honest with people about what goes on. I just, in general, I'm not a big fan of that, particularly when you follow what's going on, telling that based on the perception of what Colombia is can actually mislead people in the wrong direction of what it actually is here. On the other hand, I'm not going to hide it either. If you ever have questions about stuff like that, but there's a context to everything. Okay. This next one. This is hot on the news. This is big news. So you got here, Colombia rejects having military cooperation agreement with Venezuela with U.S. warships off its coast. Venezuela has something like 12 or 15 frigates and various naval interdiction ships because they're cracking down. It turns out that Venezuela, being in the situation that they're in, has become one of the largest drug dealers, exporters in the world. And so they're blockading it. And of course, Maduro, because he's pretty much hated in Venezuela. Um, he cheats on elections and, you know, all the things that dictators do. He's got to come up with things to get people riled up, and he's pretty much announced to the country that the U.S. is getting ready to invade. Well, they're not invading. What they're doing is they're stopping fentanyl from pouring out. So there's the route from China to Mexico to the U.S. has been greatly impeded with the border being essentially shut down, and so it's going from China to Venezuela, and they've got. I'm not quite sure how they're doing it, but you got this blockade, and you got Maduro drumming it up, and the interior minister in Colombia has been asked about, well, is Colombia going to go to bat for Venezuela if the U.S. invades? And he's like, oh, hell no, we don't have any agreement with them. We've got no reason to be involved in it. But then you get Petro, and if you follow the guy, you'll know what I'm talking about. He gets on these incoherent rants, usually at 2:00 in the morning, and there'll be never ending where he repeats himself and he says all kinds of stuff. It's really crazy. And he went on a rant about this that made it sound like, it's like, well, I'm not going to permit the United States to invade Venezuela. I mean, he was just talking nonsense. And so it's all in the news. So we'll see how all this shapes out. But I don't believe for a minute that the United States is invading Venezuela, although they did put a $50 million bounty on Maduro's head. He's not recognized by most of the world as being a legitimate president because of the last election was fraudulent. He's jailed his opponents, and supposedly he won the election by 98%. You know how that goes. It's like what the Soviet Union used to do. So we'll see how that shakes out. I don't see any effect here in Colombia. I was sent an email, said, how is this going to affect Colombia? That's why I'm talking about it today. I don't think it's going to have any effect on us. Quindio strengthens control on informal tourist accommodations. What they're talking about is like Airbnb. You see, in order to rent out your apartment or to have a hotel or whatever, you have to register your business. Because you see the guy sitting there with a blue jacket and it says Dion on the back. That's Spanish for IRS. And I just had to file taxes, by the way. Didn't have to pay anything. And with the coffee thing, there was a lot of money transacted, even though, it's like comes in, goes out, comes in, goes out. But so there wasn't a profit, but there was a volume of money that put me up into a category where I got an email from Dion saying, hey, make sure you file your taxes because you got this volume of money. Well, it was already done. It was already understood that having a volume of money doesn't mean you have money. And so I don't have to pay any taxes. But anyway, they're cracking down. They're becoming, well, they're kind of doing their job. I was going to say they're becoming like the IRS. I don't really want to say that because they're really nothing like the IRS. I've dealt with the IRS much of my life being in business, and these people are not like that. These people are actually nice when you deal with them. They're not wielding power, and I've yet to meet anybody like that. I've had to deal with them quite a bit in the last 2 years. But they're cracking down on people that have these Airbnbs that they'll register with Airbnb, but they're not registering within Colombia. That's not legal. It's kind of like Uber, with the exception of Medellin. Like you come to Armenia, use the Uber, you're breaking the law. And so are they. So I suggest, I don't have anything against Airbnb in and of itself. I have an issue with Airbnb within Colombia. There are issues. And so when people talk about Airbnb, I recommend to them use booking.com. In order to use booking.com, those places have to produce their business documents where Airbnb doesn't. So, and that's not the only thing. There's issues with Airbnb with photos representing a property, and it turns out that's not even the property. Booking takes more care with it. I used to use both when I was traveling a lot. And eventually I stopped using Airbnb altogether and switched to only Booking because I kept running into problems. Now, you'll say, well, I've used Airbnb for 10 years and I never had a problem. Well, I didn't have a problem until I started having problems. And it wasn't anything to do with me. It had to do with the properties not following the guidelines because they had no enforcement. And so I would just run into all kinds of issues. I'd go in and they'd want to charge me a second time and all kinds of stuff. They would want to put surcharges on things that are required to be clearly defined in the print. Never, not one time in the years that I've used in booking.com have I ever run into those issues. So keep that in mind. But I'm not sure this is just a few days ago where they got together and said we're gonna clamp down on this. And the legal businesses are very happy because obviously they have more overhead to be legal, and then you got people biting into their client base that don't have to pay that same overhead. So that's the latest on that. And get him off there. And my last one is titled here, Snakes. Coffee farmer attacked by snake in Calarca survives and recovers. I couldn't find the name of that snake in particular, but there are poisonous snakes in Colombia. They tend to keep to themselves, like the mass murderer or the mass murderer. No, what do you call them? Serial murderer. They keep to themselves. Well, these snakes kind of keep to themselves. But here's the thing. This is, even though we've had a fair amount of rain recently, overall, this tends to be the dry season. And it's also warmer. And so the snakes tend to come out and sun themselves, and they're feeling frisky. And this farmer was walking around with just his shoes on in some brush, and he got bit. Got to the hospital. They gave him some anti-venom serum or whatever, and he stayed a couple of days and he went home. So he's okay. The hospitals here are stocked with this. As long as you get to help, soon enough, you'll be okay. Probably. But the moral of the story is, if you're out hiking, and I know some of you come here and you do that, you definitely want to be wearing some high boots and maybe some heavy jeans. I know it's hot and you're hiking and it's not the most comfortable, but if you're going to be in those kind of situations, you got to be smart about it because they're here, they exist. I mean, you probably never see them here in Armenia. I mean, you're not going to see them in a residential setting or anything like that. But if you're out in the brush, even if you're near a city, where Calarca, I don't know if it was maybe a small city, big town. But if you're out in that brush, there's snakes, there's bears, there's pumas, there's animals here. So there you go. Yeah, there's bears not far from here. Recently spotted in Cordoba, and I took some pictures of it. It's the speckled bear. All right, got through all the news. Take a look at the chat, and then we're going to get on with our... Oh, I got to do the ad read. Let's look at the chat here. Oh, get that thing off. There we go. I forget where I am sometimes. Good morning. Let's see. There's a big celebration going on here in Parade. The founding of the city is celebrated 30th of August. Big parties, parade, every day until the 30th. Yeah, but that's parade. Every town has that. The towns are big on that. But in Medellin, he went over and asked somebody. Of course, you may not be relating it to Robert's video. You might just be announcing that. Juka, happiness is nice, but business going well and tax refund are better explanations. Next month, back to normal. Well, this was for last year, but it could have been around tax refund time. It's funny. Let's see. Is the snake in the photo a really bad Jose? Huh? Bad hombre? Yeah. All right. Now we're going to actually get on to, oh, yeah, ad read. Got to do my ad read. Here we go. What are we going to pick? Let's do that Rumble Premium again. It was nice and short. I liked it short. Come on. Here we go. You've probably noticed Rumble is growing fast and it's not slowing down. They're building a real alternative to big tech that puts creators first and actually protects free speech. And now there's Rumble Premium, an easy way to upgrade your experience. With Premium, you get an ad-free viewing across the platform. No pre-rolls, no interruptions, just the content you came for. If you're not used to Rumble and you just come here for, that's a little aside, for me, look around. There is a ton of, there's millions of, it's becoming huge. Plus, premium members unlock exclusive content like bonus videos, behind the scenes drop, and more from your favorite creators. Right now, Rumble is offering $10 off an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium and use the promo code STUDIO at checkout. That's rumble.com/premium, promo code STUDIO. No ads, more freedom, and content you actually care about. That's the deal. Now, I wonder if they took credit away because I talked in the middle of it. I couldn't help it. Now let me get back to where I was. I got a black bears visiting backyard everywhere on daily basis here in the suburbs of Vancouver. No sweating too much about, as long as you know how to behave. Here, all the wild animals here. If you're in Colombia and you look around, you'll see that most of the country is just wildlands. You know, it's forests and jungles, and and then you have your pockets of civilization, and the animals are very well behaved here. I mean, I must say, it's they keep to themselves. They really keep out of, for the most part, populated areas. And speaking of well behaved, you see a dog in the U.S. You see a dog, it's like you better be careful. Give them a wide berth. Don't go up and pet a strange dog. And like here, the dogs, they walk around like they're just part of the scenery. They don't growl at people. They're just here. It's strange because when I lived in Ecuador, the dogs ran in packs and they weren't very friendly for the most part. But anyway, all right. So I got one last thing when it comes to ads, and I'm going to ask for your input on this.
The latest from Quindio.
What did I do?
With rhythm and flavor.
Whoop. Oh, I forgot my intro. All right. I've got two advertisements for my coffee. They're each only 30 seconds. I'm playing these for you because I want your feedback on it. The first one I'm going to play you, so we'll call it ad number one, is somebody created for me, and it's very well done. It's slick. There's a couple things. Well, there's one thing I'm not a fan of. Could be altered. It's not a big deal. And what threw me a little bit is the Colombian girl has a Filipina accent, but really well done. And then the second one is something I put together. It's kind of rough because the sound, I didn't work on the sound, and it doesn't have to be me, but it's the format. So take a look at these two, and I want you to vote one or two. So let's start with one.
Hi guys! Coffee Time Exotics Mocha is so rich it asked me to sign a prenup. But all jokes aside, this coffee is absolutely delicious once you taste it. You can't live without it. Try it. Go to coffeetimeexotics.com. You'll love it.
coffeetimeexotics.com.
I haven't heard that Filipina accent in a long time. It's so cute. Okay, and this is the second one. It's about the same length. Coffee Time Exotic Bourbon Rosado. Like a fine wine, but it won't judge you for drinking at 7 a.m.
coffeetimeexotics.com.
Coffee Time Exotic Mocha has me thinking about life's big questions. Like, why didn't I drink this sooner?
coffeetimeexotics.com.
Coffee Time Exotic Bourbon Rosado makes mornings feel less like punishment and more like a reward.
coffeetimeexotics.com.
Okay, the first one, a couple things I would tweak. The second one, I probably got more things that I would tweak, but it's the general idea, the format of just kind of these rapid, like I told you, I was thinking Burma shave. So these rapid one-liners, then the repetition is usually a pretty effective thing. On the first one, the one I love that it wasn't me, it's this cute little AI chick, and I love that. The accent, well, nobody's going to notice. It's fine. But it was there were extra words that I would pull out. So let me know what you think. I really want you guys critiquing this to help me out because I want to get these things done to get posted up on social media because I still have inventory that I need to move. All right, so there's that. Now we're going to get to the actual topic.
Guess what's hot and happening now? Straight from the source, we show you how. Through it more, let's break it down. The main topic starts right now. Ow, ow.
All right. So I already explained why I'm doing this topic today. And some of you don't have a clue how it comes about. Some have some pretty set ideas based on different articles that you've read. And then there's me. And I'm content with what I've found out. Doesn't mean I'm always right, but it tends to be closer than a lot of things that I read. And I didn't understand why that was until I dug in wondering that recently. So today we're going to dig into one of the biggest questions for expats in Colombia. That's the dollar. Is it getting weaker? Are we about to see a surprise? One of those rare times when the dollar actually grows stronger, or so it seems. So let's rewind to COVID. Back then, the peso collapsed and the dollar surged. Why? Global fear. Everyone ran for safety, and the US dollar is the world's safe haven. Investors dumped pesos, bolivars, rupees, poured into the US dollars. The exchange rate hit record high, over 5,000 pesos to the dollar. However, that's the going story. But here's what I argue with the conventional wisdom on this. I'm not saying that was wrong because it was somewhat true, but it didn't hit 5,000. It was a while after COVID. It was in 2022 What was going on? It was November of 2022. What went on November of 2022? We had a presidential election, and we elected a president that ran on cutting oil, the largest export of Colombia, the biggest single effect to the exchange rate. And he announced to the world that he was going to cut back production. Peso tanked. The dollar got stronger, relatively speaking. When did it take a turnaround? June the next year. Enough time to see that that was election talk, but he didn't do that because he wouldn't have had any money to work with. And as a matter of fact, he increased production. That brought investments back into Colombia. So when he became president, investments ran screaming from Colombia because of the oil situation. And when they saw that it wasn't going to happen, they came back. So I think the theme here is that it's not one thing. We'll get to one of the biggest things with Turtle's article in a minute. In the past year, we've seen the peso push back. It's been stronger, sometimes trading below 4,000 pesos to the dollar. I think it got down to 39 something not too long ago. Why? Because oil prices climbed. Foreign investment returned to Colombia, and Colombia's own economy surprised to the upside. Oil is the key here. It's 20 to 30% of the country's exports. When oil prices go up, the peso strengthens. When oil prices crash, the peso crashes. In some ways, it's that simple. But there's other things. I mean, here's a twist. U.S. oil production is exploding. America's producing more oil than ever right now, flooding the market. Maybe because of Russia, doesn't matter. They're flooding the market. That keeps global prices from running away too high. They definitely have stabilized, came down, and they've been fairly stable. In the long run, it could push oil lower. If oil drops, Colombian pesos are going to take a hit. So, yeah, peso had a good run this past year, but a lot of that strength is sitting on oil prices, and oil is volatile. And keep in mind, when I say oil prices, we're talking about how it relates to investments in Colombia. When oil prices are in Colombia's favor, there's more investment dollars in Colombia. When it's tanking, people pull it out of Colombia and put it somewhere else. Now, from the U.S. side of it, there's something that gets even more interesting to me anyway. Normally, when the U.S. Federal Reserve cuts interest rates, the dollar weakens. Investors move money to countries with higher yields. The article that Turtle sent me, the guy was talking about this and said that when interest rates are cut, the dollar weakens. And that's what you'll find all over the place. You'll see that in economic books. And there's a lot of people out there that are so-called experts that'll sit on CNN's panel, and they go by these rule of thumb things, but it's more complicated than that. For example, last quarter, the U.S. GDP was just recently, a couple days ago, revised up with tariff money to 4.6%. I mean, that's crazy strong. They're also projecting that next quarter is going to be 6.6%. That's not a slowing economy. That's acceleration. That's a boom. Add to that a flood of investments. Billions have been pouring into infrastructure, particularly for AI, technology, manufacturing, energy, all these almost portable nuclear power plants that are going to be powering these AI centers. This stuff is exploding. You see it on the news all the time about all these foreign car companies that are building in the United States. So there's a ton of money coming in. That's direct investment. The U.S. is still the world and even more so now, the world capital magnet. So yes, if they drop the interest rates, and if it were that alone, the dollar would become weaker, because with interest rates lower, people want to invest less. However, the world tends to be volatile. And when you have an economy that's exploding despite the interest rates, you have security, stabilization, and you got a lot of money to be made, even if the interest rates are lower. And that very often, depending on the overall picture, outstrips the effect of the lowered interest rates. No one talks about this. And another feature of this, for every percent that the Fed cuts to drop the interest rates, equals about $300 billion a year in debt interest payment. So if they're talking about over the next year possibly cutting it a couple percent, $600 billion that goes towards debt interest will actually go towards the debt. That money not being burned up in debt service is money that's going to pay that debt down, strengthens the economy, strengthens the dollar. That article that Turtle sent me never mentioned any of those things. It took it just as the rule of thumb that economists will look at this one feature and say, well, they're lowering interest rates, therefore the dollar is going to be weaker. It's not that simple. You have to look at a number of things. And it's not just what people say, well, it's all the US that controls Colombia, or it's all Colombia that controls the US. And neither is true. It's a formula, a mixture of maybe four basic things that have the biggest impact. So you combine strong growth, massive investment, reduce debt strain, and you're going to get a fiscal picture that's actually attracts more capital, even as interest rates fall. So where does that leave us? We're sitting here wanting to pay rent, and we just lost 1 billion pesos. On one hand, history says rate cuts are going to weaken the dollar. On the other, today's reality says the U.S. economy is running hot, debt burdens are lighter, and global trust in the dollar is as strong as ever. Meanwhile, Colombia's peso depends on oil. If prices hold high, the peso might stay firm. But if U.S. oil production keeps flooding the market, oil prices could slip, and the peso could weaken again. So what's my prediction? The dollar is going to strengthen based on a massive shift in the economy. And because they're for two purposes, once for the benefit of the US, but also to affect Russia, the US is going to keep pumping every bit of oil they can into the economy. And that's going to affect Colombia in a positive way for us as expats. So those two things combined over the next year gives a pretty rosy outlook. So don't be surprised if the dollar bucks the old pattern and gets stronger in the months ahead, because for those of us living in Colombia, that exchange rate will hit your rent, your groceries, your daily life directly. It's a story worth watching, because this time the end might not follow the old script. So that's my take on it. Everybody, you can tell me I'm full of crap. You can email me. You can put right here in chat. We got another 10 minutes or so. That I'm happy to have a conversation about this. And I've seen some chats up here about the ads, so I'm going to take a look. I have a hunch, before I even read these chats, that the pretty girl is going to come in strong. Let's see, where are we? Black Bears. Here we go. Pretty girl is my choice too. What, somebody else? No. Whoop. Correction, American expats. I miss. Oh, the Black Bear. Oh, okay. Canadian dollar is also getting stronger than USD lately. We're good so far. Be the face of your own brand, more authentic. Yeah, yes and no. I can't stand it. I can't stand me. I can't stand my voice. I can't stand looking at my videos when I have to. It's just so yeah. But I'd rather. What I'd like to do is get somebody local who can do these for me consistently. I'm kind of waiting to see if the exchange rate gets over 4,000 to go to the end. Well, it's been over 4,000. Um, it hasn't dipped under 4,000 in a couple months, but it's been hovering right around there. Like it was 40.11 when I started this morning. Um, so uh, what we got here? I've got one of the chats didn't come up. Tommy. Not sure why it's not on the screen. But what's he say? I think AI is too bland sounding. It was a little, but it was okay. Oh, Tommy voted too. All right. I don't know why, but you didn't come up in the live chat feed. Let's see. All right, that's it. No other votes. Anybody want to, take take what I have to say about the exchange rate and cut me down? Because my opinion on what I just told you about the interest rate, it's overwhelmingly written up all over the internet, various articles about when the interest rate drops, it will weaken the dollar. And I just think it's crazy because historically, it isn't the way it works if the economy is getting stronger at the same time. Oh, there's Tommy. I agree that there are trade deals, plus the interest rates have a lot to do with it. Global events determine what investors do, and who knows why international investors. Yeah, yeah. Investments is really the key here, no matter what country. But it's what drives those investments. So what factors occur that either bring in investments or pull out investments? We've got another thing that'll have effect here is with the election coming up, there'll be a few more episodes, unfortunately, like blowing up that helicopter. That tends to scare investors away. And we get to the election, I have some confidence that maybe they'll vote for Fico or somebody like him, level-headed, middle of the road kind of guy, and that'll bring in a lot more investment. So up until the election next year, I think it's going to trend our way. Now, from day to day or from even week to week, it may not look that way, but it's been stuck in limbo for a few months, and I think it's going to begin to slowly rise. I don't think it's going to get huge. I mean, if we get to 4,400, I'll be happy. But I mean, who knows what that's going to be? It's almost you have to watch it as you go along. Let Sabrina do her little dance and read the coffee ad. Well, I already did the ads. Put Sabrina in the ad. Well, that was just I don't know who that person is, and we named her Sabrina. It was just something on Facebook that caught my eye one day, and she's an awesome dancer, and you could tell from where she was. She's just a country girl. I mean, she's living in a shack, but killing the dance. And so I put it up one day, and you guys went to town and play her again, and I had to go find it because I wasn't keeping it. And somebody named her Sabrina, but I don't think it'd be ethical for me to. I mean, I wouldn't even know how to contact the person to say, would it be okay if I used you in a coffee ad? And then we have the issue of the music. I don't know if that music was copyrighted. You see, I ran it. It was in YouTube. YouTube copyrights every bit of music, even my own music. They will copyright. They've gone insane. You can't play music on YouTube anymore. Unless you get a special dispensation. I'm not gonna go through what that takes. I know there's people that do it. I'm not going to go through that. Interest rates in the U.S. right now are at the highest in the developed world. Yeah, then the dollar should be higher by that logic. Except a lot of, as I mentioned, there's a lot of things that come into play, and things don't happen instantly. Currently, I think one of the issues that's happening in the U.S. is you have so many publications that hate this administration in the U.S., and they keep saying, well, the tariffs are going to destroy the U.S. Historically, that's not the case. But that's what they keep saying. And you would think by now, as a lot of that has settled down, that they would stop. But those stories are out there, and they're out there worldwide. And a lot of people just take stuff at face value, including investors. And so if you've got people saying, well, I'm going to wait a little while to let this settle out. Oh, the chairman of the Fed was saying this. All this stuff's right in front of his face, and he's ignoring it, saying, well, we're gonna wait a little bit longer. Well, what are you waiting on? I mean, everything that you wanted to see exists now, but now you still need to wait longer. And so you have that going on. And so at some point, people will start to break through that. And then you'll see more of an effect. And it will probably escalate relatively quickly. Now, what happens on the Colombia side, we don't know, because that also comes into play. So it's a formula. As a matter of fact, I got a little chart here. Let me put it up here. Quick summary table. Factor: oil price goes up, peso strengthens. U.S. oil glut, peso weakens. Fed rate cut in the U.S., classically poor peso gain, but context matters. U.S. growth and fiscal savings could support stronger dollar and a weaker peso. I made that up, so I wondered, did I misword something? But anyway. Oh, that was my Biden impression. Well, anyway. There was a 1% tax coming to remittance going to foreign countries, so that may have a little move on some currency exchange rate. I don't think I don't believe that's going to happen now, but I'm not sure. I seem to think that was changed, but if anybody knows, I mean, is that continuing? There was a reason for it previously. You could say there's a reason now that would have to do with immigration, getting people cleared out, but there's too many other things that would affect it. So I'm not sure that's going to stand. Juka. In my portfolio, U.S. funds are growing faster than any other. Yeah, not surprised, because of all those things that I mentioned they're in the midst of right now. The economy is at the beginning of a boom that I don't know if we've seen the strength of the numbers that are beginning to show up in my lifetime. I don't remember GDP ever being that high. Now, the GDP officially was 3.0, and they revised it. But in that revision, they also had to add in the tariff money. That's part of it. It's income. And that's what put it up to 4.6. I'd heard that somewhere. So I'm looking for it because I want to see the information. I'm looking headline after headline after headline. Well, 3.0, and it was all in a negative light. Except this, except that. And then finally I put in for revision. And I went through so many negative headlines, and I finally got to one where when they added in the what I just said to you, when they added in the tariff information, there was a correction of 1% to the 3.0 just naturally, and then they added in the tariff, and it came up to 4.6. It took me forever to find that. I'd heard, and I said, well, it was a pretty good source. I think it's probably true. Let me keep looking, because they weren't saying that didn't exist in all those articles, but they weren't talking about that extra money coming in. It was also negative. They kept talking about increased prices, but when you look at the prices, if you look at inflation and pricing increases in the U.S., it's like, what are they talking about? They don't exist. It's not happening. So so the headlines, you got to be careful with the headlines, because I was really struggling to find decent information. I'm beginning to think the internet just isn't good for anything anymore. Tommy, it was in the big, beautiful bill, but not sure if it was changed during the bill going through the House or Senate. Could have changed. Yeah, I think it. I wouldn't swear to it. You'll have to look it up yourself. I believe that I heard something about there were certain things that were pulled out, and I think that was one of them, but I'm not sure. If anybody finds out, please let me know. All right. Well, no more comments on the ad. There's a few people. I got 40 some people right now just in Rumble alone. Feel free to, put something in the chat. It's there for you. A lot of people are afraid to, well, I don't know if I should. Yeah, you should. Yuka, thank you again. And everyone else that has kept this channel going. That this morning went a long way to cover some things that I was scratching my head on. And it's like, lo and behold, here it was. So thank you very much. And for those who are worried about having a heart attack yourself, I'll give you an update of what happens when I go in Monday, when they set this plan. I'll try to keep you informed in that, unless I get stuff about, please stop talking about it. And I will. All right. So I guess that's it. I guess we're gonna call it a day as my voice vanishes. So I will see you next week. We'll get the rest of our metrics done for Rumble, and we'll be good to go. Dan, hey Dan, how you doing? Pretty AI models capture attention. Absolutely. All the ad quips would be good in a rotation. Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to make them very short with a repeat of the jingle kind of thing. And that only amounts to 8 to 10 seconds. So I'm trying to reach 30 seconds, which is, ideally what you want to have. So I figure, well, let me put 3 in there that are different. And I've got a total of 30. So I could run 10 different, 10 with all different little one-liners in there. That was my thinking. But again, I didn't work at the voice, the sound. I didn't do anything to improve the sound, and that's an issue. And then you got my ugly mug on there. That's an issue. Pretty girls are always key. And then on the other one, there were some words in there that are just kind of unnecessary. Like she does the one-liner, and then she says, all kidding aside. They're not supposed to be that funny. So all kidding aside kind of falls flat because they're corny. I created them to be a little corny. And so you don't want to point out that this is supposed to be a joke, because it's not. It should be kind of deadpan. So anyway, that's just a conceptual thing. But I love the look of that. The outro with the 2 coffee bags, the look of that girl, the clarity of that sound. The production was perfect. It was spot on. Just those couple things. There are AI voiceovers, so you could change the accent. Well, yeah, I know. I mean, that's a small thing, and I wouldn't even stop it for that. What got me the most was like, all kidding aside, and then just some kind of repetitive words. I could do that. That's a 12-second ad stretched out to 30. Anyway, it's all good. It's all good. So if you got any emails to send me for any guidance, or you want to complain about my topic today or whatever it is, feel free. I read them all, and I will see you next week.
Okay.